What's up, squad? From Reach Suite, I am Colin Smith, and welcome to the Cold Ones Podcast. It's the show with chilly questions and even colder ice cream. And today, we are joined by my friend, David Yockelson. You know him as the demo automation guru at Gartner, former VP of product marketing at Vista Consulting Group, which is part of Vista Equity, and your favorite Menlo Park, Silicon Valley fashionista. Welcome to the show, David.
Good morning, Colin. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. You looking good? You're looking minty fresh.
Well, we try. For you, I try to let all the stops out. So
It's good to see you, man. How are you?
I am doing okay. Thank you. A few days out of our Tech Growth and Innovation Conference. So sigh of relief for me. Means I get back to do the other two jobs that I have. So
Yeah.
good stuff.
Where was it again this year? Is it Austin?
It was in scenic, beautiful downtown Grapevine, Texas, aka 10 minutes from DFW.
Okay. I knew it was in Texas. I didn't make it this year. Was
We
it?
missed you.
Yeah, I missed you as well. Well, beautiful. And you got back last Friday?
Friday afternoon, yes,
Nice.
and a lot of sleep over the weekend.
Welcome home, and I'm glad you got some rest. I actually
Appreciate it.
spent the weekend resting as well, and I still am having allergies. So
Oh, sorry to
that's
hear.
DC during the spring, though, right?
I hear you. Hey, that's why you got to move out to California, because then all you have to worry about are earthquakes or like floods, but not allergies.
Fires, a lot. The list goes on. So, David, I tell everyone we strategically select the ice cream for you. We don't just send you some random crap, all right? I think about who is DY, who is David Yockelson, and what ice cream speaks to me about him. And so for the first one, if you want to give it a little ta-da.
Well, sorry, I'm going to show it this
Yeah.
way just so I contain it on my desk.
I know that you're keto, which to me, I had to Google. And something I Googled, what are foods for people on keto diets? And it was nuts came up, peanuts came up as one of them. So I was like, peanut butter cup. So we've got some, I think we have some, hopefully Halo Top or Talenti.
It was exactly Halo Top.
Okay.
And it also matches my outfit today. So
Dude, look at that.
That was good thinking.
Yeah, exactly. The cognac leather jacket with the Halo Top peanut butter ice cream.
Well, technically it's Vicuña. So just in case we're wondering.
Vicuña. I don't know how to spell it either. I have to Google that one later. Google's getting a lot out of me these last 24 hours. Well, we got you some peanut butter, so enjoy. I brought my ice cream. I always bring my little mini ice cream.
Oh, I'm jealous. Nice. Cheers.
Cheers. And we encourage you to eat as much or as little as you want. Up to you. But we're gonna jump, David, into some personal rapid fire. These are just some questions that help us get to know who is the man behind the LinkedIn photo, right? So many people know who you are, and all of our guests know who they are, but we don't take the time to get to know who's the human being, right? So you ready?
I'm ready. I'm cracking. And now I'm fully charged beyond the 2 massive cups of coffee I've had already today.
All right. So first one, what's something that you feel like people, it doesn't have to be business, right? This is just life in general.
Yeah.
What do you feel like something that people misinterpret about David Yockelson?
Misinterpret. Well, yeah, I started off with this, hey, move to California thing. I'm actually not from here. I'm from New York originally, and my calm, cool demeanor and thankful lack of a Yonkers accent doesn't give that part away. So but as a native New Yorker, Westchesterite, I guess technically,
Yeah.
I'd prefer that people know I'm from there,
Yeah.
rather than the Californese, I guess, piece of it.
And Westchester, that's White Plains area, kind of by White Plains?
It's well, it starts Yonkers all the way west and north, but White Plains is where I had one of my first jobs, working in an IBM product center when IBM tried to do retail 1 billion years ago. That was fun.
Nice, man. Well, you definitely, I mean, I wouldn't say you don't give East Coast vibes. Like you do have some East Coast vibes about you. And I've known you for a little while now.
That's maybe the pay. So I speak quickly, usually, especially when I get to know somebody. And so you're an East Coaster as well,
I am.
farther south. So yeah, we got it. So, but thanks for the props and the nod though. So I'm glad it's getting across.
Yeah, man, no doubt. All right, next one. What's something that few people know about you, but you wish more people did?
Usually I go with the 2 different colored eyes, but my LinkedIn picture brings them out pretty well. So more people may know that than I suspect. I not currently, partly the keto thing, but I have been a sort of national class age group triathlete. So I'm very competitive and I've been very athletic, and I trust I will be again soon, post injury and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's a big part of my personality. It doesn't come out in the LinkedIn posts.
Yeah, that's huge. My mom did one triathlon and I went and supported her. That is a hell of a, whoo.
It's fun. Fun and expensive, but fun.
Yeah. Have you done like an Ironman?
I have done I've done everything from really super sprint races that last half an hour and then I think are actually worse in some ways than an Ironman up through Ironman. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a hobby.
Nice, man. When do you think you'll get back on the bike?
I still do stuff. I train, but I don't right now train to compete. So I'm always doing. I feel really guilty if I don't get a workout in every day. I'm a little obsessive about that. But hopefully, we'll see. Maybe this summer get back to competition somehow.
It's a good thing to be obsessed about, right? All right,
Yeah.
funniest celebrity encounter, or
So
most interesting, rather.
well, I think so. The weirdest one I think
Yeah.
is so there's the actress Mary Steenburgen,
Hmm.
and the movie that will relate to the story that people may know her from is the movie Parenthood, starring Steve Martin as well,
Hmm.
and Tom Hulce.
Hmm.
So the story was I'm flying home from LA back to New York when I lived in New York. And before I got on the plane, I wanted to entertain myself somehow. So I bought a CD or a DVD rather. And the DVD happened to be Parenthood. I loved the movie, wanted to see it again, whatever. So I buy it, get on the plane, and who is sitting in front of me out of the blue is Mary Steenburgen,
Oh my
star
gosh.
of the.
Yeah.
So I feel like an idiot. So I kind of tap her and said, "Would you mind? I happen to have bought this. Would you mind signing it?" And I'm sure she thought, "Yeah, right, sure, and cuckoo." But yeah, that's probably the weirdest one and most interesting that I have.
First off, I know who Mary Steenburgen is a little bit from Step Brothers and Elf. She's the mom. She does a lot with Will Ferrell. They must have like a good thing going there.
She's also Ted Danson's wife, if I remember correctly, my Hollywood star things, and watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah. You know what's I have a very slight similar, I don't even remember his name, but I used to be obsessed with the show Silicon Valley. And
Oh well, who
right,
in this business would not be?
I know, and you're right, and you're like probably neighbors with the house they filmed it at. Part. So I'm in New Orleans on my family vacation, and they just released the newest episode of Silicon Valley. And I watched it in the hotel room, and then we went out to party in New Orleans, and I run in to the actor, the lead
Oh,
actor.
cool. Tim Miller.
And I'm like,
The it depends which.
yeah,
It's
the
either
main one.
the thin guy who was the CEO of Pied Piper, I guess, or the founder,
Yes,
or
him. His name
I don't
is
remember his name.
Thomas Middleditch.
Okay.
Thomas Middleditch. I run into him and I'm like, dude, first off, hello, love your show. But second off, I just watched your episode like 45 minutes ago. The new one. He's like, oh, how'd you like it? And we talked a little bit. He's the crew friends, and we went about our way. But it was kind of similar to your story about like your life,
That's
and then
odd.
yeah,
And by the way, I'm here to tell you, I mean,
yeah,
anyone that's in tech and watched it knows that it's true. But living in Silicon Valley, I mean, there's an episode where they're talking about buying a new Tesla, and like every other car here is a Tesla. I do
mhm,
not own a Tesla, by the way. But every element of that show is true. So
yeah.
it's fantastic.
I heard that they actually hired like VCs and
Yes.
Silicon Valley folks to like help make it
Yep.
real, like
Yep.
consult.
Well, they did a hell of a job.
Yeah, no doubt. That shows it paid off. Last question. Most recent purchase, any kind, over $250.
Actually, you can't see it with the camera. I was gonna. There were two that I thought were interesting. So I just like to say this because I like to say the word. I'm a horographer. So I time pieces and
A
watches.
study of. Oh.
Yes, not what you would have thought. We added an AP Royal Oak to the collection, which is nice. But maybe more interesting and more generally applicable was a bottle of Yamazaki 12. If you're a whiskey fan, if you're a Japanese whiskey fan, that's the more affordable version of ridiculously expensive Japanese single blend Scotch or whiskey
I
in their case. But
I have had Yamazaki. I don't know if I've had 12, but it is, yeah, it looks nice, man. It's got like speaking of Royal Oak, it's got like an oaky flavor look to it.
it's a little deeper. So if you
Yeah.
like Nika coffee grain,
Yeah.
this is like one step beyond that, and just a shade over 250. So it gets in there.
Dude, well, nice job with the AP Royal Oak. My dad last year got one in rose gold, and it is first off, they're way
Rose
bigger.
gold. Whoa.
They're way bigger than I thought. Like it is huge. The thing's big. His
Mine is 41, if I remember
Oh my
correctly.
gosh, man, they're beautiful. So I'm excited to see rocking it out and about where you feel comfortable. All right,
Got it.
stage two, from
Yeah.
personal to professional. This is where it's going to get really fun. I'm so excited about these questions, David. I've been nerding out all week about asking you some of these. Do you have ice cream number two ready?
I was going to say, I mean, you're not, and so here we are, ice cream number two, and
Ice
I'll let
cream
you
number two.
introduce it because.
Minty fresh because my man shows up to every meeting looking like he is on the Louis Vuitton fashion carpet.
Well,
Speaking
and
of
by the way, I thank my wife for that, not me. This is all her influence,
wait, what's her first name?
Alessandra.
Thank you, Alessandra, for gifting us with this fashionista of Silicon Valley. We got you the minty fresh though, the chocolate mint, because I think it just fits your personality.
Appreciated.
Fun fact about the Louis Vuitton fashion show. Um, so I went to the same high school as Pharrell Williams, and he was commissioned by Louis Vuitton to do their most recent fashion show. And he's well known for wearing our high school Letterman jacket, PA Letterman jacket everywhere. He actually had Louis Vuitton make a PA Letterman jacket for the fashion show. And so you can buy a PA Louis Vuitton
wow.
Letterman jacket.
Nice.
I think it's hilarious. Okay, so jumping into the more professional side of the questions here. You are without a doubt the demo automation guru. I think that you are who folks go to. Yeah, no, more to you, more to you. You're the voice of the market as it relates to interactive product demos, demo automation, whatever phrase people want to put it onto. And you definitely know more about this category than I've probably ever learned. As my uncle would say, you've forgotten more about it than I will ever. How did
Statement
you?
of wisdom, not age, I hope, but
No, just in brain power. How did you stumble in? Because it's still a nascent category, and it certainly was when you started covering it. How did you get into this category?
I backed into it sort of or stumbled upon it in or during the almost at the same time I started doing product-led growth research. So in product-led growth, what most people tend to think about is I need to make my product available to someone. And the most common ways that people think about that is through free trial or freemium offer, because there's this perception you have to give away something as part of that motion. But not every product works that way. Not every product works in a self-serve motion for a variety of different reasons. It's too cumbersome, too much risk associated with the data you have to submit, all that kind of thing. Anyway, so I had seen that there were these products out there that could give a product experience, but without the product itself. And I called them at the time PLG Lite, which kind of sounds pejorative, and I didn't mean it to be. But as this was going on, you started to see more and more of them. And just as somebody who used to have to create demos in one or more of my past lives, it was horrific for a variety of different reasons. So I could see that these were powerful things for a variety of different roles that have to deal with demos one way or another. So that's the origin story.
So if I'm going to summarize that, it's one part PLG research led you to this, and then one part also the empathy of having to create demos in your career also probably gave you more of the aha moment of like, wow, this is valuable.
Yeah. And notwithstanding the conversations I have all the time with whether it's marketers or pre-sales people or whomever that are having to do the same thing now. Yeah, so it like clicked.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. No, that's really interesting. I'm glad though that you have the operator experience to notice the value, because another individual may come across it and say, it's not PLG, not valuable. But you have you sat in the seat of the target audience. A question that I think probably a lot of folks are wondering is, holy smokes, this category has blown up so fast. I believe G2 ranked it as the #1 fastest growing software category.
That's what I read.
Most searched for software category, literally in 2023. Why? Why, David, has the category blown up so fast, seemingly overnight?
And just to embellish that a little bit, Gen AI is what it is, and you can't, there's nowhere you're going to go and escape Gen AI conversation and burgeoning power in the market. But aside from that, there's nothing I've seen with two characteristics. One is the speed with which people want to take it on, and the growth of the vendors in the market, as well as the uptake, but the development as well beyond it. So, I think a couple of reasons why it's going so quickly. One is the value is obvious. So my demo story. I mean, I used to sit there and try to mess with hex code to put customer names in my demos. So you move that to I have to create a production instance of my application that sits on top of ServiceNow or whatever, and I have to get my partners to do it, and I have to do it 6 times this week, so on and so forth. The efficacy of the technology is obvious, and whether you approach that from the poor pre-sales person or SE that has to actually create these, or you approach it from, wouldn't it be better to give somebody a demo on the website rather than take 3 months to schedule a meeting?
Yeah,
it's obvious the benefit. The other reason, and I don't mean this in a bad way either, is that it's easy to create something and be in the market with something. Now, the more we can flesh it out, but just to be simple, the more capability you add to it, the more complex the more robust your method of creating these demos, the harder it is actually to build a product and get it to market.
Yeah.
But the barrier to entry is pretty low. So that brought a whole bunch of companies into the market very quickly.
Okay, so what we're thinking is there's kind of like this clash, or just rather meeting, not clash, but meeting of the need is there, the barrier to entry is low, boom, category explodes.
Yep.
And I think in typical capitalism, more optionality to the consumer is a good thing, right? Because more optionality creates more competition, creates lower price points, etc. Like macroeconomics back. Sometimes though, I think it could be a bad thing. My question to you is, do you think the proliferation of this category, the explosion of vendors, is a good thing or bad thing for the consumer, and why?
It's confusing for the consumer right now because most consumers, and this is another thing that's changing very quickly. Most consumers can't tell the vendors apart. So, there's a number of, let's call it about 30 that offer something in a span of capability.
Yeah.
And it's an emerging thing, but the vendors themselves, haven't done a great job along the way of differentiation. And which is kind of okay early on. A rising tide carries all ships. So,
Yeah.
let's build up the market. Let's be up. So, but ultimately it's a good thing. And I mentioned the span of capability. I think the good thing for the consumer is the easier capability is simply less expensive, or will be less expensive over time. There's pricing pressure already at one end to create a product tour, let's say, or to create a screen captured demo. And you augment these with guidance and hotspots and so on, and a small degree of customization. But it doesn't cost a lot to do. And there are vendors in this space that are accumulating lots and lots of customers because the price points are low and it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for the consumer. And as the range of capability is flushed out and is made more available in more products, good
Yeah.
for them as well, because they get to use it more effectively across the way that they are going to market.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. God, curious to hear your thoughts on more of that, but for the sake of time, we'll jump into the next topic here. So a statistic that a lot of folks share and are in awe about and are just, I think it's a headline stat in B2B software right now, is that 83% of the buyer's journey is, I mean, you see it everywhere, dude. I came across this statistic probably through you a year and a half ago. But now I'm starting to see it on websites. I'm hearing it in SKO recordings. I'm seeing it in webinars. 83% of the buyer's journey is completed without a seller present, which means 17% of the buyer's journey is completed with a seller present. And that number is divided by the number. And Brian Cotter, shout out to Brian Cotter, the SVP of Global Sales Engineering at Seismic. He's one of the Reach Suite advisors. We're grateful to have him. He likes to remind people that number is cut by the number of vendors that you're evaluating. So if you're evaluating 3 vendors, that's actually 5.3%.
Yep.
Yeah. My first question is, how the heck did y'all start tracking this metric, and what caused you to track this metric? It's a unique one. That's my first question, actually.
Yeah, a quote comes to mind with Glengarry Glen Ross, one of my favorite movies ever, and Dave Moss, Ed Harris's character, says something about, you got the memory of an effing fly. Well, the buyers are kind of like that. They're flitting about trying to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I if it's not obvious, I work for Gartner, hooray. And there's a whole bunch of research that we have done, not me, but collectively we have done over time on buyer behavior and buying behavior. And this has gone on for the last, I don't know, 5-6 years or so, where we've had a huge accent on it, because we're very interested, not just how vendors go to market. And I should say, my role at Gartner is kind of twofold in this case. I am a go-to-market analyst advisor, but I also am the person that follows this technology. So it's like a 2-in-1 for me. But so we're very interested not only in the tech itself and what it does, but the opposite side of that is what do buyers want? How do they operate? What makes them tick? That kind of thing. So we started looking, because my clients are all technology vendors. So we're trying to help them figure out the best way to go to market. Well, the best way to do that is figure out how your buyers act. So that's how, that's kind of why we look at it. And it turns out buying is a horrific, complicated, convoluted process, and everybody's getting worse at it, not better. And part of the reason for that is, it used to be easy. Back in the old days, the technology group, the CIO and his or her direct reports, and back then it was almost always his, but their reports bought all the technology. Simple, one-stop shop, if you will. As things have changed, as we have more SaaS products, as the budgets have broadened out beyond IT, you have non-tech people that are in buying roles, and they don't know how to buy. That's one of the things we find out.
Yeah.
and they have day jobs. So even if they go down a buying process, which is not linear as people tend to think it is there are 6 buying jobs that we figure out and they get repeated, and it's a twisty turny spaghetti mess
Yeah.
of a process in quotes. Um, but so they're bad at it, they're new at it, and they don't want to talk to sellers. At least they don't want to talk to them initially, which is a shame because we also know that there are high amounts of purchase regret. We know that CIOs and CFOs don't see eye to eye on the value of investments that they've made.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding that, it's a tough road.
I think there's an element also, if I may, and I know I'm certainly guilty of it, of the Dunning-Kruger, uh, um, is it Dunning-Kruger law or effect or something? Uh,
Effect.
yeah, the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is a psychology that's essentially someone who is incompetent doesn't know they're incompetent because they're incompetent, right? It's like inherent. And I think we see the Dunning-Kruger effect play out in buyers where they're not competent buyers, but they actually have an overflated confidence in their competency to buy, and they're not aware that they're incompetent buyers because they actually think they're very competent, and so they actually are even digging their hole even more. Okay, so that helps me understand a little bit more why and how Gartner got into tracking the metric because of your clients. The next question is, when I got out of college, uh, and actually we need to dub that part out. In 2017, in 2017, when I entered the workforce, the statistic that I remember our sales leadership teaching us was 70%. 70% of the buyer's journey was completed without a seller present. Fast forward 6 years, it is now 83%. I ran the math this morning. That is a 19% relative lift in 6 years.
No.
If that relationship continued by in another 6 years, by 2029, it would be 94%. Is that a real possibility, or do you think it's eventually going to flatten out? And why or why not?
Yeah, it has to flatten out. It's like a limit. I was a really poor math student, but limit as x goes to zero. I don't think it goes to zero. And then the reality is that people actually need help with their buying experience, even if they're not interested in asking for it initially. And it's true. And we see the same numbers that you see all the time, that they don't want to talk to the seller initially. They want to do their own research. They talk to their peers. They depending upon the type of person or buyer or user it is, they more technical people want their hands-on stuff. What are we, Chat GPT, sorry, somebody has to say something about Gen AI in every conversation. But other than the technology, the thing that made it amazing was the go-to-market. It's like, here, take it, try it, look at its utility. It's obvious. So hands-on is a thing, and the demographic of buyers, as they get younger, they have more tech experience and they want to be more hands-on and they're more comfortable with it. But even with all that, there's a lot of noise. And we're talking about a market where the barrier to entry was pretty low, and now there's about 30 vendors in it. So when I start to hear the same story from 6 companies, or I'm not really sure which use case makes the most sense for me and my organization, or which piece of the technology you're providing me is going to get me the best value, that's when I need help. So eventually, in that process, somebody needs to talk to someone. Humans need to work together to scope, to figure out value, and help. In a lot of cases, redundant, help them make the business case
Yeah.
for that technology purchase. So there's always, we have what we call a maverick piece of research. Maverick for us is, we're going to stake a position that is so crazy that you're going to want to fight us about it. And so one of them is the
Your
death
hot
of a
take.
salesman thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's very provocative.
I was going to bring that up, but I wasn't sure if it was controversial. Okay, keep going
No,
with this.
no. Yeah. So, it's fun to talk about, dude, what if there are no salesmen anymore? And again, none of us believes that's going to happen. On the other hand, if I were an SDR or BDR, I would probably be a little bit worried. And another Gen AI comment I'll make is, we have a kind of a scale that says, of different job roles, which are the most fearful that their job will be eliminated, and sales is way to the right. Some of the most fearful. So if the inside sales roles are the ones that I think will change and will be able to change the most, because cold calling just isn't all that effective. But more broadly, it's not a thing. We're still going to have people and people.
Well, I think there's 2 comments I'll add to that, David. Numero uno is, and I'll spare the name because there's a great Cold Ones episode coming out with a huge thought leader. Built one of the top 10 tech companies from the ground up, thought leader. I mean, just everyone looks to this guy to
Ooh,
have an
I can't
opinion.
wait to listen to that.
And he does have an opinion. This individual does have a strong opinion that buying and selling may be completely automated on both sides, and that humans are not buying from humans and sellers are not selling to humans?
I would say it can be. I don't think it will be all the time. I have a colleague who wrote a book about what happens when we have machine buyers. So
Very
look,
similar. Very similar.
no question. I mean, I could today, I talk about product-led growth all the time, and it's self-serve and 100% hands-off and all of that. But the number of instances where that can actually happen because of the right product and audience combination are still rare in B2B anyway. And
Yeah.
I can have a committed spend in an AWS marketplace as a company, which means that theoretically I could make what normally would be a more complicated purchase automated, as long as the right approvals and dollars and all of that were pre-aligned. But I don't see that happening 100% of the time.
The second the second comment is I do think, like, trigger warning for anyone who's listening. I will explain this. I do think death of a B2B salesman is possible, or salesperson rather, is possible, not because their role is going to be eliminated, they're going to be terminated, but because I don't know if it's selling anymore. I think it's honestly becoming guiding. And
Yeah.
so we might change the name, we might even change the function, and the B2B seller of today might be something very different in 5, 10 years. And that is the death of the B2B salesperson, but it's not because they got terminated, their job's gone, they're all out in the street. It's because the roles evolved a lot. Curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's already happening today to an extent. So again, go back to product-led growth. One of the things that we discover and that we talk about is that when you do have, I'm going to couch it under free offer, but it could work the same way theoretically with an interactive demo. But when you have a free offer, free trial, or freemium product, one of the things we find is that the users that are in those tell us that salespeople enter into the equation at the wrong time, 41% of the time. Either means they jump, or the most common thing is that they jump in too early. So somebody activates a free trial and immediately is pounced on, which defeats the whole purpose of the thing. And the other is somebody starts up a trial or joins a freemium offer, and nobody talks to them, or nobody talks to them for a long, long time, which means you're losing money because they're running around on your dollar, or you're missing the right opportunities. So in to help assuage that, what role becomes viable and has been taken up by a lot of companies is this notion of what used to be called an assistant. It was called sales assistant initially, which is kind of a crummy name because they're not selling, to your point. Now we call them product experts or product advocates. And the job of this role is help, guide, educate. So if somebody is trying a product, and this can happen as part of paid adoption as well, but when somebody is trying a product and you can tell that they're having a problem, by the way, you can tell is a code word for hopefully you're collecting data on what they're doing. But if you're doing that, then you can tell where they're getting stuck. Are they doing something? Have they activated but not onboarded? Have they onboarded but not fulfilled this use case, and so on? And so that person steps in and says, well, can I get you to the next step? Or if they are doing well, then, hey, that's great. Why don't you try this thing? Or,
Right.
where can I help? So what that's doing is, along with product-led and along with interactive demo tech, is it's replacing a lot of the cold calling, cold emailing, and discovery and qualification stuff that the SDRs, BDRs, inside salespeople would have done.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's changing their role, and in some cases, substituting out for somebody else.
I like that. I think, and I think this is advice for myself. I think if we put our outreach under the in-person filter, meaning would you do that if you were standing in front of them, kind of filter, we might do better, because you certainly wouldn't walk into J.C. Penney and the minute you touch something, someone go, "Would you like to buy that? I can show you to the register." Like, that's awkward. No one would do that, right? Someone might walk up and be like, "Oh, hey, what brings you in today?" I
Yeah,
see.
or even, but if somebody touches a shirt and, oh, how much is this?
Yeah.
Well, before I tell you how much it is, can you tell me why you need that shirt? Are all your other shirts okay? Yeah, so that the whole thing just doesn't work.
Yeah. Uh, what's your annual income?
Yeah.
I need to know that before I answer the price of the shirt. You're like, are you
Who
gonna?
else? Who else has to approve the purchase of this shirt? Is it your wife? Your friend?
Wow, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? Okay. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I want to wrap up with my last question I like to ask. You had a very successful career. You've
Oh,
done a
thank
lot, from Vista Equity Consulting Group, Gartner, to everything, before that and in between. I'm sure there's been some great support roles along the way, whether it be associates, analysts, researchers, folks that you've worked with that have helped bring you to where you are today. And we like to really shout those people out because I don't think they always get love when they're in the back of the house. Who are some folks that come to mind that you'd like to give some credit to for helping you get where you are?
you. Wow. I would go, I'll give you a couple. I go all the way back. So I used to work at a company called Prodigy Services Company, which before there was the internet and before, any of that sort of stuff, Prodigy was this intended to be the internet before there was one. So it was a CBS, IBM, Sears company, which if you listen to that suggests it was like born not to work. But that aside, I had a boss named Mike Greenbaum, and one of the phrases that I remember every day was you always make reveille. So which very simply means you're always going to be at work early, ready, don't be late. It sounds very simple, but if
Yeah.
you're the kind of the first one there, so that's one. At Meta Group, probably Dale Kutnick, who is one of the founders of the company and retired a couple of years ago now from Gartner, ultimately, was just such a fabulous analyst,
Yeah.
person, et cetera. And I think he taught me or showed me the value, in quotes, could go either way, but the value of being able to argue any point. The man could debate either side of anything for hours, and often did, but in a rational, logical, information-based kind of way. And he could also assimilate a variety of thoughts about any technology like instantly and bark it back. So that was a talent I tried to emulate. But anyway, but that was kind of fun.
That's so valuable, by the way, being able to kind of spin in either direction.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry.
No, no. I'm trying to think who else. Well, I would be remiss, particularly given the fashionista I have become, an appreciation for other stuff like jewelry. Is my wife, who should be a role model, not for me, but for anyone trying to achieve. So my wife is from Brazil. She would tell you her story herself, that she started out in a one-room house where 5 or 6 people were living in Sao Paulo, and now is the CHRO of NetApp. So
Huge.
she's come a long, long way, but she's inspiration for hard work, and unfortunately, she's right all the time, which really makes living here tough.
It's hard to argue that one, right? Just a 90% batting average.
Yeah,
Well, beautiful. You're the first person that shouted out their wife. That's special.
I
David,
learn stuff from her all the time,
that's
so
special.
it's all good.
That's special. That's special. That's a great partnership. David Yockelson, you made it through. No brain freezes. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining the Cold Ones podcast. Tell the audience in our remaining minute here, what's going on in your neck of the woods? What are you excited to share with them?
Sounds really mundane, but one of the things that's coming up now that my conference is over is we actually have a market guide for the interactive demo automation application market. We had it last year, had 18 vendors in it this year. It's going to have 25, 26. Be busy, like as soon as I end this, I'll be working on that, and it's due out at some point toward the end of June. So, stay posted or stay tuned on that, and watch my LinkedIn for fun, in quotes, stuff about PLG and demo and whatever else is going on.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to see it. David, have a great rest of your afternoon, brother. Appreciate you.
Colin, thank you so much. Ciao.